Listen closely. The reason some men are unforgettable isn't looks, money, or smooth lines. It's something quieter, something happening inside her mind that most men never see, never touch, never understand. And once you understand it, you can never unsee it again. Here's the truth you were never supposed to know. Attraction isn't logical. It's emotional, psychological, and deeply unconscious. A woman doesn't become obsessed because you try harder. She becomes obsessed when her mind starts filling in blanks without her permission, when you leave space instead of pressure, when you activate feelings she can't easily explain to herself or to her friends. Most men lose before they begin because they do what feels natural. They over-explain, they over-text, they try to prove their value, they chase clarity, reassurance, certainty. And the female mind does not bond through certainty. It bonds through emotional movement, through tension, through curiosity, through contrast. Here's where it gets uncomfortable, because this next truth forces you to confront habits you were rewarded for your whole life, but punished for in attraction. The fourth psychological trigger is emotional contrast, and almost no one talks about it honestly. Human memory doesn't store constant experiences well. What it remembers are shifts, highs after lows, calm after tension, distance followed by connection. When everything feels the same, the brain goes numb. When emotions rise and fall, the brain pays attention. The female mind bonds through contrast, not consistency alone. This is why being always available quietly kills attraction. When every reply is instant, every emotion is predictable, every interaction feels safe but flat, her mind stops leaning forward. There's no emotional movement, no spike, no dip, no story. And without a story, there's no obsession. Emotional contrast doesn't mean playing games. It means you don't live on one emotional note. You allow moments of depth and moments of lightness. You let conversations end before they drain. You don't squeeze every interaction dry. You leave when things are good, not when they're exhausted. That ending creates a psychological echo. Her mind replays the moment, not you. The fifth trigger is challenge without conflict. This is subtle and powerful. You don't argue. You don't dominate. You don't submit. You challenge her worldview calmly. When she says something emotionally charged, you don't rush to agree just to be liked. You respond with grounded honesty, not to provoke, but to stand in your own frame. This does something important. It positions you as a man with internal structure, a man who isn't bending to fit her emotions. The female mind respects structure. It relaxes into it. When she senses you won't collapse emotionally to keep her approval, her attraction deepens because she feels she can lean into you without you disappearing. Here's a hard truth. Validation feels good in the moment, but it kills polarity. Mystery keeps polarity alive. When you don't fully reveal your emotional reactions, when you don't over-explain your intentions, when you let some thoughts stay unspoken, her imagination takes over. And imagination is stronger than information. The sixth trigger is emotional safety without emotional exposure. This is where many men misunderstand vulnerability. You don't dump your wounds on her, you don't make her your therapist. That creates emotional labor, not attraction. Instead, you show calm strength. You show that you've been through life and survived it, that you feel deeply, but you are not ruled by those feelings. Emotional safety means she doesn't feel judged, rushed, or pressured around you. It does not mean she carries your unresolved pain. When she feels safe but not burdened, her nervous system opens. When her nervous system opens, bonding deepens. Now listen carefully. Attraction doesn't grow because she understands you fully. It grows because she wants to understand you more. The more you let her discover you slowly, the more invested she becomes in the process. This is where obsession quietly forms, not from intensity, but from unresolved emotional curiosity. When your presence leaves a question mark instead of a period, her mind keeps returning to you. Sit with that, because the final trigger ties everything together, and it's the one that separates men who are remembered from men who are replaced. This is where obsession becomes unavoidable, because now we're no longer talking about attraction in the moment. We're talking about what happens when you're not there. The seventh psychological trigger lives entirely in her inner world, and once activated, it runs on its own. The trigger is this: Emotional self-association. Here's the truth most men never hear. A woman doesn't become obsessed with you because of what you give her. She becomes obsessed because of what she becomes around you, the version of herself that shows up when you're present, the emotion she experiences when your energy enters her life. That version becomes addictive. Think about it. If she feels confident, playful, feminine, desired, grounded, inspired, or emotionally alive around you, her mind doesn't say, I like him. It says, I like who I am when I'm with him. And the mind will chase that feeling relentlessly. This is why trying to impress her backfires. When you perform, she becomes an audience. When you lead your life with quiet certainty, she becomes a participant. Obsession grows when she's emotionally involved, not entertained. Most men focus on saying the right things. The men who leave marks focus on how they show up, their pace, their tone, their emotional restraint, their ability to enjoy the moment without trying to extract something from it. Here's a hard truth. Desire grows fastest when there is no emotional demand. When you're not trying to get reassurance, affection, commitment, or clarity from her. When your energy says, I enjoy you, but I don't need you. That freedom creates space, and space is where her feelings expand. The female mind is highly sensitive to emotional pressure. Even subtle pressure triggers resistance. When she senses you're okay, whether she stays or leaves, something inside her softens and leans in, because now attraction feels like a choice, not an obligation. Another layer most men miss is emotional leadership. This doesn't mean controlling conversations or outcomes. It means regulating the emotional temperature. When things get intense, you don't escalate. When things get light, you don't cling. You stay centered, calm, grounded. That emotional steadiness becomes a reference point. Her nervous system starts syncing with yours. This is powerful because humans bond fastest to those who regulate them emotionally. When she feels calmer after being with you, her body registers safety. When she feels energized, it registers excitement. When she feels seen, it registers connection. And when all three happen around the same person, attachment forms deeply. Obsession isn't loud, it's quiet repetition, thinking about you when she's alone, wondering what you're doing without checking, feeling a subtle pull toward you without a clear reason. That doesn't come from intensity, it comes from emotional imprinting. And imprinting happens when you don't rush the process. The men who lose her are always in a hurry to define things, to label things, to secure things. The men who stay in her mind move slowly. They let moments unfold. They let emotions breathe. They don't try to lock in what hasn't fully grown. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you can walk away emotionally intact, you are dangerous in the best way. Because now you're not chasing attraction, you're allowing it. And when attraction is allowed instead of forced, it deepens on its own. This is the shift. From trying to be desired to being the environment where desire naturally forms. Let that land, because once you understand this, you stop asking how to make her obsessed, and you start becoming the man she can't forget. Now we move into the part that most people are afraid to say out loud, because this is where attraction turns into attachment, and attachment turns into fixation. This is not about tricks. This is about power, quiet power. Here is the truth. People bond strongest to what they feel they might lose, not what is guaranteed, not what is begging, not what is constantly proving itself. The female mind attaches where there is emotional value combined with uncertainty. The eighth psychological trigger, rarely discussed, deeply misunderstood, is selective availability. This does not mean disappearing. It does not mean ignoring. It does not mean acting cold. It means your life is full, structured, and meaningful with or without her. Your time has weight. Your attention is intentional. When you give it, it feels chosen, not automatic. When a woman senses that your world does not revolve around her, but that she is invited into it, something changes. She no longer feels like the center. She feels like a privilege, and the human mind attaches fastest to what it feels lucky to access. Most men overexpose themselves emotionally and logistically. They share everything. They are always reachable. They orient their schedule around her availability, and without realizing it, they remove all tension, all value, all anticipation. Anticipation is fuel for obsession. When she doesn't know exactly when she'll hear from you, but trusts that she will, her mind stays engaged. When she knows you'll respond eventually, but not instantly, her imagination stays active. And imagination is the breeding ground of emotional attachment. Here's where it gets deeper. The ninth trigger is emotional restraint during emotional moments. This is where most men collapse. When she pulls away, they chase. When she tests, they explain. When she gets emotional, they react. But the man who stays calm during emotional turbulence becomes unforgettable. When she is uncertain and you are steady, her nervous system begins to rely on yours. When she is emotional and you don't absorb the chaos, you become an anchor. And anchors are not exciting at first, but they become essential. There is a silent moment that changes everything. It's when she realizes you don't fear losing her, not because you don't care, but because you trust yourself. That realization is destabilizing in the most powerful way, because now attraction is no longer about validation. It becomes about alignment. She begins to wonder where she stands with you instead of the other way around. She starts monitoring her behavior, her words, her investment. That's the shift. The 10th trigger is self-respect expressed through boundaries. Not aggressive boundaries, not lectures, quiet ones. When something doesn't work for you, you don't argue. You don't negotiate your values. You calmly adjust your presence. You don't punish. You don't threaten. You simply choose differently. This teaches her something her mind registers instantly. Your self-worth is non-negotiable. And here's the secret. People become obsessed with those who don't abandon themselves to keep connection, because deep down, everyone is searching for someone who is solid, someone real, someone who doesn't disappear under pressure. Obsession forms when admiration meets emotional safety and restrained access. That combination is rare. Most people offer too much, too fast, with no structure. When you offer depth slowly, with calm confidence, you become irreplaceable, not because you tried to be, but because you refuse to be cheap with your presence. And once a woman feels that difference, she doesn't forget it. Because now, you're not just a man she likes. You're the standard her mind quietly compares everyone else to. Now listen carefully, because this is where everything comes together. This is the part most people feel, but can't explain. And once you see it, you can't go back. The final truth is this: obsession is not created by what you do to her. It's created by what you refuse to do to yourself. Most men lose themselves in pursuit. They abandon their rhythm, their boundaries, their values, their direction, hoping connection will save them. And the female mind feels that loss immediately, not consciously, instinctively. Attraction cannot survive where self-respect disappears. The man who becomes unforgettable is not trying to be unforgettable. He moves through the world with internal alignment. His words match his actions. His emotions are felt but not leaked. His interest is real but not desperate. His absence has weight because his presence was grounded. This is the deepest psychological trigger of all: emotional congruence. When who you are, how you feel, and how you act are in sync, your energy becomes coherent. And the human nervous system is drawn to coherence like gravity. She may not know why she feels calmer with you, why she thinks about you when nothing special happened, why your silence feels louder than other men's attention, but her body knows. Here's the part most people don't want to accept. Obsession is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It settles in quietly and rearranges priorities from the inside. She starts comparing without meaning to. She starts checking her phone without realizing why. She starts replaying moments that felt small, but weren't. Not because you overwhelmed her, but because you didn't. You didn't push. You didn't cling. You didn't perform. You didn't disappear. You didn't abandon yourself. You stayed centered, and that center became the place her emotions kept returning to. This is why trying to get her never works. And becoming someone you respect always does, because the female mind doesn't attach to effort. It attaches to energy, and energy always tells the truth. If your life feels full, she feels curious. If your presence feels calm, she feels safe. If your interest feels chosen, she feels valued. If your boundaries feel firm, she feels respect. If your absence feels peaceful, she feels the loss. That combination doesn't create attraction. It creates imprinting. And once a man is imprinted, he's not easily replaced. Not because he was perfect, but because he was real. So here's the question you need to sit with. Not answer quickly, not perform for, not explain away. Are you living in a way that someone could miss, even when you're not trying to be missed? If this video challenged you, say why in the comments. If it confirmed something you already felt, say that too. Like the video if this spoke to you. Subscribe if you want more truths most people avoid. And share this with someone who needs to hear it, because the right message at the right time can change how a man shows up forever. And the men who show up differently are the ones no one forgets.